Hello and welcome to Aquarium Dilemmas. I'm your host, ScienceGal Aquatics. I'm Kerri, and this is my co-host,
Jesse, and welcome. Thank you for tuning in for another wonderful episode. This one here is a mixed emotions bag. This one gets your heart racing, gets you pumping.
Yeah.
You're all over the place when you find this out.
Yeah, hopefully you never experience this, but I would say there's two things that make a fish keeper's heart just drop. And that's one, the obvious, losing fish, and two, water that doesn't need to be on the floor. And this week, what do you do if your tank just all of a sudden starts leaking? And that just feeling when you walk in and there's water on the floor and you just know it's from your aquarium.
Well, your mind's racing because we've had so many disasters where it wasn't the aquarium leaking, it was a pipe or something else that had went wrong.
Yeah.
But when it's next to a fish tank and you see water on the floor and you know there shouldn't be water on that floor.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Your heart starts sinking and your mind starts racing.
And this is kind of a side note, but it's along the topic. We have a silver arowanid that's quite large, and I don't know if it's true, but I promise you from my experience, he or she, when they're hungry, will slap, just make water sounds. And until I got used to that sound, I was like, I'd rush in there every time because later on we'll discuss it, but we did re-silicone that tank too. So I was a little paranoid in the beginning before I fully trusted myself when it came to fixing that. But now I can recognize the sound, but even that kind of just, if you have a larger fish that likes to splash or just whip where you can hear that water, that sound until you recognize it and become familiar with it will also make your heart kind of skip a beat.
Because, is something sprung a leak?
Oh my goodness. I will tell you that before I knew and went into the rabbit hole of everything aquarium, I would immediately, no matter what, toss the tank away, no matter the size, no matter what. Luckily, when I was a child and my parents let me keep aquariums in my room, it was mainly smaller tanks, but there is a way that you can fix some leaks that I've grown more confident in. But if it's a broken panel, I don't necessarily know how to fix that. But some minor leaks in the silicone to major leaks in that silicone, you can totally fix with some. I like to use smaller tanks as practice, but even going back a little bit, what should you do when you walk in? What's the first thing you should do in that moment?
Try to decide how bad it is. Is it a crack in your glass? Is it a leak on the seal? Or the forbidden one we haven't had happen? I think you had one blow up on you and moving it, but
yeah,
we've never had one just spontaneously explode.
But I've also learned the importance of, if you have a larger tank, that center brace. There's a center brace for a reason. And when I would clean I didn't have a huge tank growing up. The largest one I had growing up was a 30-gallon. But as we got larger tanks and I would maintenance them, that middle brace, I would always, and I still do, just hit my arm on that. And I was like, I wanted to rip it out. But don't do that. It's there for a reason. And it can, if you remove that, it can make it a little less sturdy.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're talking about a lot of force on on a panel that is so long, especially when you get up to the 180-gallon tanks and the 75s, 55s. You're talking about a 3 to 6 foot or even larger piece of glass. With that much water inside it, the force that is being produced pushing out, the weight that glass is having to hold, that center brace is doing a lot more than what you believe it is.
Yeah. And in my head, I thought once you got a tank, it was good forever. You didn't have to do anything. I never thought ahead like that. But there is a point where you should, if you've had a tank set up for a long time and the silicone's looking a little rough, a little worn down.
You might have scratched it a few times, cleaning the tank. Yeah.
But I would say the first thing for me is when I walk in and I see something like this is first I have to remind myself to breathe, because I'm instantly I go to like 0 to 1,000, like in like no time flat, and I have to like breathe. But if you can see anything still alive, scoop it out as fast as you can. And usually you have a bucket or a tote or plug the sink. At that point, even I don't recommend using sink water, but sink water is better than no water at all type of thing. Hopefully you have a hospital tank or a quarantine tank set up and you can scoop them up and throw them in there and try to save
it all depends on how bad the leak is.
But,
has it completely drained the tank? Not drained the tank?
How long? It's always at night too. It seems like everything's fine and I wake up and I'm like, oh my goodness. But sometimes you can, maybe you can hear something like, and sometimes you can't. But if you can scoop up, save whatever you can, and then assess the situation. Like I said, sometimes you can't. I've been in situations where it was just, I didn't wake up and I slept in and I didn't know anything was going on, and that was that. And I was like, oh crap. But sometimes you can. Or, even side note too, if a fish jumps and you walk in, sometimes you can just scoop them up fast and put them in something and, use some water conditioner or whatever you feel like is best in that situation, but just scoop them up as fast as you can. And then I usually, if it's a major leak, I try to take once the fish are scooped out and everything's good, I'll go after the substrate, try to remove plants or decor or substrate, whatever I can, just to, if I know get the
beneficial bacteria, get the biomedia before the filter is dry.
Well, sometimes sometimes I've had tanks where it has been leaking, but it didn't leak all the way out. It was only like maybe half empty, or I had, a couple inches of water left. And you can save some of that water for a little bit and stick all of that in there. But sometimes I've had it where it's drained dry, and at that point, there's no beneficial bacteria. It might not be dry, but there's no saving anything. It's just, you're going to start over. But if you can save, and there's some water left in there, yeah, go ahead and stick your filter media in that and try to set up another tank if you can. The smaller tanks, like the 10 gallons, if something happens, I like to keep them to practice silicone, like redoing silicone. But usually the 10 gallons, honestly, for the price, it's easier the silicone's going to be more expensive, but they're good to use to practice.
If you're going to try, if you think that's what you're going to do in the future, you have a bigger tank that's going to need to be eventually resealed. That would be my thought. If you have a 20 laying around or a 10, try it with one of those before you step up to a big tank. And that's what I did in experience with just messing around with it and playing with it to see what worked best for us. And to me, a 20, even if you just get one from a garage sale, and so you don't know the condition, the people say, we haven't used it, but it don't leak. Well, you can't guarantee that.
Yeah, I've picked up tanks all over the place. Wherever I can get a tank. And now that I know how to re-silicone them, I don't let a deal pass me by if I can.
Yeah, that's my recommendation, because I haven't had the experience you've had with tanks leaking and all that. My experience is getting used tanks and people saying, oh, no, this tank's fine. I would always take them outside, find somewhere that I could set them on a level surface that was sturdy, and I would put water in them.
Well,
regular water in them to check them. And then if I had any question at all, or with nothing in it, no substrate, nothing, you just put water in it. If I looked at the seal and I didn't like it, then just go ahead and
and honestly,
order the silicone and get it started.
We kind of do two things at once. We'll fill it up to test it 100. Don't put anything, just test it. But if it feels like it's going to hold for at least a little while, or you're kind of examining things, I like to use vinegar and water and a razor blade, and I'll start cleaning it up, and kind of depending. Sometimes you can go to a garage sale or whatever and find them where they've barely been used and they don't really need a whole lot of scrubbing and cleaning. But others you get for a great deal, but it's going to take you a while to clean it up. But if it's already filled up and it seems like it's going to hold for at least a little while, or you don't feel comfortable, like, okay, that spot it's holding water, but it's half gone. Well, go ahead. We're going to dump it out anyway. So we might as well try to spiff it up a little bit during that time too.
Absolutely. And with those tanks, it's relatively easy to do. It's a little time consuming, but
yeah, it's worth it though for the right deal.
it's really quick. And especially when you get to the bigger tanks, you don't want to risk. You get it from somebody, take their word for it. And maybe the silicone was just old and the tank just kind of got jostled in transit or something. There's too many variables. To put 180 gallons of water in something and risk it. I can't even spit it out
because just thinking about it, if you had a large tank like our 180 gallon and we filled it up and we're like, oh, it's good. And it could have been. I'm not saying, who knows? But that one chance, and you have your fish in there, you have your decor, you have all your everything, and then all of a sudden it leaks. Water's everywhere. You have to take it all out again. Your fish get super stressed. It's just
your fish are stressed. The aquarist is stressed.
Never been
the homeowner's stressed because there's water all over.
And like I said, for every tank that I've gotten that has been in bad shape, I've gotten a tank for some deal that looked good. It looked brand new. But generally, even through all the years of my fish keeping, the most leaks I've had is because of a weak spot in the silicone. And some of the leaks have been pretty slow. It took some time. I was like, that seems like a little wet down there. And you kind of look and you don't see anything. And then some time passes and you go and the puddle's just a little bit larger and you notice that's a little bit more than evaporation. And it might be a drop at a time, or it's like 3 drops a second. It's a really slow, steady, just leak that gets worse. And then I've had where everything overnight was just, there is no water left. There's nothing left water-wise. And it was, again, it's usually in the bottom corner somewhere that's just weak, or I've hit cleaning it too aggressively with a razor blade and kind of scuffed it or something. It's usually something to do with the silicone. Always, no. I've moved a tank and hit it just right. And I was like, well, that's something I just can't fix. I don't feel comfortable yet drilling a tank or fixing a glass panel. But when it comes to silicone, we've re-siliconed 3-4 tanks now, and we feel relatively comfortable kind of sharing how we do things. But if there's a way, it might happen to someone. So hopefully you can take something, but I would say 95% of the time I've had a leak, whether slow or fast, it's been a break or a weak spot in that silicone somewhere in the bottom corners somewhere along that strip.
Yeah, that'll be my next project. We'll be learning how to replace a whole panel. I don't feel that it's that difficult. I will
Yeah, it's always worth a shot.
Research it and do it. But I also feel at the same time, if you're going to have to redo a whole panel, you're probably going to be buying another fish tank because it's going to take you a little while to do that.
Yeah, especially when we have no idea. We'll let you know how it goes. But
and even silicone in a tank.
One step at a time.
And even silicone in a tank is going to take you a little bit of time.
Yeah.
It's going to take you on, even if you've done it, and the fastest I can do it, it's going to take 24 to 48 hours.
It takes some time for that to completely cure. But mainly, if you walk in and you see something leaking, just, again, going back a little bit, just scoop them out, whatever fish you can save, whatever's in there that you are keeping in there, if you can save it, just scoop it out, take your substrate out, and kind of examine the situation if you want. If it's a smaller tank, you have nothing to lose, and if you want to practice, I think those 10-gallon, 20-gallon tanks are really nice to practice your skills on, but depending on how much the silicone is versus the tank, sometimes those smaller tanks are cheaper just to replace, but I always recommend getting a larger tank. Hopefully nothing happens, but if something does, knock on wood, hopefully it just doesn't happen. But if it does, you'll be a little bit more prepared.
The main thing moving forward with, if you are going to go ahead and reseal your tank, the only, I do not take the bottom lip that goes around the base of the aquarium off at all.
We don't take any of the lips off.
Well, I've taken the top lip off.
Of one?
I've taken the top lip off of the 55.
Oh.
I've taken the top lips off because there's no water in them.
But you put them back on.
Yes, I put them back on. Absolutely. 100%. Back to why you need that cross member in there.
I love rimless tanks. They're expensive, but if your tank comes with a rim, keep it on.
I've popped the rim off the top of 20s, 55s.
It takes some effort. I tried I think I remember now because I did try and I was successful with it, and then you finished it up. But we've done it to where you don't have to. You don't have to. It's something you can, especially with a bigger tank like a 55. Because of that center bar, as long as there's no water in it, obviously there's not going to be because you're stripping all the silicone out of it. Yeah.
And you don't do a lot of prying against the middle of the tank.
Yeah, you don't want to break it. Don't break it any worse than it already is. But yeah, once we found the leak, kind of thinking back, we've practiced on a couple 10 gallons. My dad had our childhood tank that I had in our living room, which was that 30-gallon that I had. It was in storage, and it kind of just dry rotted. So we've done that one, the 55-gallon, and then the 180 is what I remember thinking.
I think I've done 110, 120, 155, the 30, and then the 180.
Trying to think. Either way, the first things you really want to do is, after you found kind of like what's going on, if you choose to want to fix it, is get it all cleaned up. You want it completely dry. And then I like to use vinegar and water when it comes to just cleaning up all the lime scale and stuff like that on an empty tank. But at this point, if you're taking out the silicone, because silicone won't stick, you can't necessarily, like, if there's a spot at the bottom that's leaking, you can't keep the silicone on the sides. You've got to take it all off. And at that point, I use a razor blade and some acetone. That acetone really helps. But be careful, it's acetone. We've used it in the nail salon and the hair salon and stuff like that. Don't put it in anything plastic because it melts. Just use some paper towels, kind of drip it where you need it. Use it sparingly, but that will help you. And you just got to use some some effort, some time, and some energy just slowly being careful and scraping all that old silicone off, because I didn't want to go into the corners and break that glue that's bonding those panels together, but you want to be aggressive enough that you can get that silicone off. Sometimes you get lucky and you find a strip and it just peels right on up and you're like, dang, that was nice. But you want to get all the residue off. You want to get all of that off and make it as clean, just the glass as possible. Just get all of that off.
Yes. And it's easiest. You can usually take your razor blade and run it, get it started and run it down the side and start to peel it up. You'll find a method, yeah. And then I do it from the other side, and then a lot of times then you can slowly pull it out, and it'll come out in pretty good sections. But then there'll be a little bit of a film and a residue there, and
that's when that acetone comes here.
That's what the
balls.
Acetone, fingernail polish remover, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when a good paper towel or a Q-tip works good, because you can just hit it with that real quick and it'll melt that little bitty tiny bit of residue off, and you'll have a really clean surface to work with then.
Just anything that doesn't have lint, or like I guess they're just lint-free paper towels. You can use whatever, or a towel. Just you don't want a lot of like paper towel residue either on there, or lint to get underneath that. You just want it as clean as possible. So just take your time. Rinse it when you think you're done. Let that evaporate. Set it somewhere where it's not going to, because it's going to be real fragile at this point, and just let that dry. And then I use the silicone we get from, it's just the local pet store. It's the same one from the local pet store and our box store. I don't necessarily recommend using the silicone from Lowe's, just because I'm afraid it can be toxic, but just whatever silicone you think you need, just get another tube, maybe, from experience, because when we did do the 180,
we ran out.
And at that point, we just let it dry, scraped it all off again, because again, silicone won't stick to itself. So you can't, like, we ran out, we couldn't go get more and go from there. We had to scrape it all off again and start over. So just get a little bit of,
that was our aquarium dilemma.
Yeah.
If you run out,
do some math, calculate accordingly.
Yeah, if you run out in the middle of the night and you're resealing a humongous aquarium in your dining room, make sure you have plenty of supplies, plenty of everything.
Yeah.
Because then, if you don't, you're going to be starting all over from scratch again, which was our mistake.
It was.
And it happened. And back to the silicone, though, you can use any silicone you want, as long as it will say on the tube aquarium safe or water safe, marine safe. That's what it'll say. It'll say aquarium safe, or it'll say marine safe. And if it says those two things, then you're good to go.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Whatever brand you have locally to you, as long as it's, like you said, aquarium marine safe. We got it. Luckily they had the same type of brand at both stores here. So that's just, we bought it all up. We bought everything. And then after we got all of the supplies, we just went ahead and taped off where the silicone, we used painter's tape. So you just do a strip on either side and got it all taped off where the silicone's supposed to go with painter tape.
Yep. And you just tape it off. It ends up being approximately a 1/4 inch overlap on each panel.
And we do use clear. I know that there's black silicone that when you fill up your tank, you don't really even see it. So that's another option too. I just go with whatever they have that's consistent for that tank supply wise. But I think there's a couple different options that you can, whatever you want to use.
Yeah, you can get black or clear is the main two that I have seen.
Yeah.
That I know exist that you can easily purchase.
Yeah, if you want to, just don't splurge. Get a good tape. Get the good painter's tape, because it will make your life a little bit easier. And then we just started siliconing. Don't go, like, you don't need a lot. Just use a little bit. I don't know what size, maybe like a pea-size amount bead. And kind of lightly run it.
You run a bead right down where the two joints connect.
We did start at the bottom. Yep. We did the whole square. If I assume the tank that you're working with, the ones that we typically work with are either a square or rectangle, but do that bottom square base first.
Yep, and then work up.
Mm-hmm. And then I think we let it tacky up I can't remember if it was a minute or two. But there's a little bit of like tacky time. And then they make tools too that you can run to smooth that. You can use your finger. That's usually what we ended up doing. But you just kind of, you don't need a lot of pressure, but just a light pressure. Kind of just run that straight down that line to kind of smooth that and then go to the corners.
Yep. And the other two tools that we use to smooth with that works well is one is a spoon.
Yeah. A spoon works good.
The back side of a spoon works very well.
When you use your fingers, it totally works, but it's hard to get off your skin. So if you can use a tool, go for it. It's worth the like 5 seconds of going to get it and using it. But if you're like me, you're going to use your fingers.
Another one is they sell for mudding and taping drywall. They sell these little plastic, and they kind of look like little pentagons or little hexagons that are little plastic, and they're just kind of like a little spade, and it'll fit right down in that corner that you can hold right just barely up against that bead and run that across there, and it'll do the same thing as the backside of a spoon or your finger, whichever you prefer. And
then when we did the corners, we went from the bottom to the top.
Yes.
If I remember. So we started right. You want to take a little bit of time in those corners and make sure that those corners in that bottom from where they do meet the sides and the bottom are a little bit thicker. So just make sure when you do smooth it up, and just make sure those bottom corners are properly filled. You don't need tons, because when I was learning this in my head, more is better, but that's not true. Sometimes a little bit goes a long ways. Just make sure those bottom corners, pay attention to make sure that there's enough there.
Yeah, pay attention. And if you're doing a bigger tank, as soon as it starts to get, if you've and it is starting to really overlap onto your painter's tape, be very, very careful and watch your silicone closely. As soon as it starts to even tacky up, get that tape off, so that then that outer edge of your silicone will adhere to the glass.
I remember we left it on. We thought, just leave it on. And
that was one of our first ones. We made a mistake.
Yeah, it just didn't work out as well. So, and then you just really, after you get that tape off and everything looks good, kind of step back, admire your work, and be like, dang, that looks good. Just let it cure. I believe it's 48 hours.
Yep, 48
hours. Leave it alone. Just set it aside and leave it alone. And then once that time's passed and it's cured, then I do a water test, and I just fill it up halfway and let it sit for a little bit, usually like 30 minutes to an hour, just to see. And then if it's good there, I'll fill it up the rest of the way and then give it a day, make sure that everything's good and there's no leaks. And then if all is good, I just go to town. I'm like, now let's add a bunch of stuff to it. But if there is a leak, hopefully there's not, but that's usually when it's like, start over and do it again. Practice one more time.
My pro tip would be the painter's tape. Would be my pro tip. When you do the bottom first, as Kerri said, and then as soon as you're starting to work up the sides of your tank, check that tape at the bottom, or that silicone at the bottom. If it's starting to tacky up, get it off there so it can finish adhering to the glass. That would be my only pro tip. That was the one mistake I made on one of the first ones we did. I thought, it'll be fine. I can get the painter's tape off later. Well, you can, but then the edge of your silicone curls up.
Yeah. And some of them look really good. I was like, man, this looks just like the store. Some of them, they're not perfect, but they do hold water. I haven't had any problems. They just don't look perfect, but the job's done. There's no leak and my fish are doing great. So I count it as a success. But the more you practice, the better you get. But hopefully you don't have to practice because you don't have any leaky tanks.
Yes. But the dilemma of the day is, should you save the tank? Or kind of like back when you didn't know you could fix filters. It's got a leak. We're throwing it away.
Yeah, but I mean, there's not too much you can do in that moment except identify the problem and try to save as much livestock or whatever you have in that tank. Just try to save it. Usually I would say a fair share of us fish keepers have a good bucket or tote or something lying around. Just scoop up them fish as best you can. And hopefully there's some that survive. Sometimes you can't. But if your tank's leaking and something happens, it's not your fault. There's really nothing you can't prevent it. If it's not something you can you can't see it coming. So just do what you can in that moment. Try to save as much as you can. If you have enough water left in that tank and you can save that bacteria until you can either quickly set up another tank or they're safe in that tank until you can get that tank, if it's worth saving and re-siliconing, set up. Just do what you can. But hopefully, like I said, you just don't experience this problem and all is well. But there is a point where if the glass is cracked, in my situation, that's the point where I just have to replace the tank. But if you know how to fix that panel, if it's a crack, then go for it. It's worth trying it. The tank, it's not holding water, so you really have nothing to lose.
No.
To try. But sometimes these situations, just take a deep breath. It's not your fault. Save what you can. If it's a larger tank and it's worth, those tanks are expensive. Even a 10-gallon tank's expensive, but just kind of weigh your options and see what's best for you. If it's worth buying $50 plus of silicone to redoing everything and all the other supplies, then go for it because it's still better than just tossing it out without trying, in my head, if it's a silicone problem. But in looking back through all the years, that's what I run into the most is leaky, faulty silicone. And we've gotten old tanks from yard sales. We've had tanks like my dad's tanks that was just setting without water in it for a while and the silicone just rotted.
Yes, that silicone right there, that was amazing. To interrupt you, that was amazing because it had set so long and been dry for that many years that the silicone literally was crumbling apart.
It didn't take much to get it off, honestly. And our 180-gallon aquarium we got it used from a nursing home locally that was upgrading. And it was holding water. It wasn't leaking. But when we got it home, because they had it outside for, I think, a week or two at that point, we put water in it to test it out. But there was spots, kind of, if you look closely, that to me barely had any silicone left. So the fact that it wasn't leaking was like, I don't see how it wasn't leaking. So if you can get a tank that's used at a good deal, just do a good glance over, test it with water. If it's not leaking, drain it, clean it, but still give it a good look.
Weigh your options.
Weigh your options.
Is your peace of mind, and let's say $60, because I think that's about what it cost us to redo that one, $60-$80 worth of silicone to redo that big tank. Is your peace of mind worth it? Or
because you just
can
don't
you sleep at night knowing a big tank could possibly spring a leak?
Because you just don't want, if you cannot put yourself in that situation. Because again, I can't, there's nothing worse than just walking in and seeing something happened with your fish, whether it's a leak, a sick, like anything. There's just nothing worse. So hopefully this helped you. But I guess the main point when it comes to leaking aquariums is just save what you can. Just take a deep breath, save what you can, and then evaluate the situation. If it's a smaller tank, it might be worth it just to run wherever you buy tanks and get a new one and get everything just set back up before your bacteria isn't as, dies off. But if it's a larger tank or a tank that's just super sentimental to you, then like my dad's 30-gallon tank, it's not the biggest tank. It's nothing special, but I've had it my entire life. I don't have a memory without it. So there's not anything that's going to replace that. So just do what you can, save what you can, and then evaluate the situation. And sometimes if it is silicone, you can it's worth, it's either worth practicing or worth saving. And it's just another possibility before you don't have to instantly throw it away. It's worth kind of evaluating if you can save it.
Absolutely it is. Mm-hmm. And especially in my mind to the bigger tanks. Mm-hmm. Even if that means you have to run out, get a smaller tank to hold those fish while you fix.
Yeah, it's
fix
worth
that
it.
Other tank.
It's worth it. I just never knew that was a possibility. I guess through all those words I'm trying to say, that I just always thought that if anything happened, big, small, little leak, big leak, anything, it was just like the filters. I just threw it away, and I just did what I could to go get another tank. And sometimes it was really easy and just a mile down the road. And sometimes in certain apartments where I've lived at, it took some time to even find a 10-gallon. So it's just nice knowing that it's going to take a while. It's not going to be overnight. But even if you want to buy a new 10-gallon and use that 10-gallon to say, practice on, and if it holds water and I'm sure you'll do a good job, but it holds water, then you have 2 tanks. And even if it's just not always set up, it's just off in the corner, but you have a hospital tank now or something you can use in a pinch.
Oh, yep, a quarantine tank.
I don't ever want this to happen to you. Like, I just don't. But if it does, in the one chance that it does, hopefully we've helped you just take a deep breath, save what you can, and then evaluate the situation.
Or you're a bargain shopper for tanks and you do yard sale or look at
there's always
on the internet and you're looking and you find a tank and you're like, oh, I'd really like that tank, but I mean, I'm kind of worried if it leaks or not. Well, you have options now.
If I have a gut feeling that I'm like, then I just re-silicone it now, because I know that it's an option and it's worth trying. Even if I mess up and have to do it again, it's worth it, because I just don't want to walk into water on the floor because of a leaky aquarium. There's just nothing. Oh, that feeling. I hope you don't experience that. But
yeah, besides the mess you're getting ready to clean up, then you're in a panic of rushing around on everything else.
Yeah, hopefully you don't. But if you do, just take these words and stick them in the back of your head, and just always have at least a bucket on hand. Hopefully you have another hospital tank or a quarantine tank or another tank available that you can just scoop everything and stick them right. And there's no big deal, but mainly just take a deep breath and one step at a time. And hopefully this helps in some manner on your fish keeping career. But thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you for tuning in and listening.
And we'll see you next time
for another dilemma.
Bye.
Bye.